Most Marvel fans believe that Chris Evans' Captain America will make a glorious return in Avengers Secret Wars.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
They imagine that this scene will be so epic that it will match or perhaps even exceed the hype levels of when he grabbed Mjolnir in Avengers Endgame. But how will he return? And how will the other OG Avengers return? Because it's sort of the unspoken promise of Avengers Secret Wars that you're going to see these older Avengers that have been off the table for some time, whether it's Natasha Romanoff, Tony Stark, or Chris Evans' Captain America. And you're going to see them interact with the new people that are in the MCU, but also variant characters from Fox X-Men films and from the Sony Spider-Man film. But again, how? How is this going to happen? Well, there's a new fan theory out there about how Captain America will accomplish this goal, bringing himself and other people back into the fold for Avengers Secret Wars. It's blowing up right now on TikTok and being shared around on the internet. So I wanted to go over the theory, break it down, and tell you what I think about it. I'm not gonna lie, this theory is pretty freaking awesome, and if it pans out, it will be crazy because they've been planting the seeds of this theory all the way back with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. So smash a gosh dang like on this video, subscribe to the channel to make sure that you have a chance to win that reformed Mjolnir, and let's get into this sweet ass theory. And I want to shout out Toy Blaster Forever on TikTok and on YouTube for basically starting this whole theory. So the theory begins with Chris Evans' Captain America at the end of Avengers Endgame going back through time with the suitcase full of Infinity Stones. Now, a couple of things worth noting here. First of all, he's using the Ant-Man quantum time travel technology. Second of all, he's taking Mjolnir, the time-displaced Mjolnir that Thor retrieved for the Endgame battle. And this is seen as somewhat of a sacrifice for Steve right away, as the rest of the world is left to believe that Steve is dead or gone. Or maybe on a secret base on the moon?
Captain America was on the moon.
This theory then asks the question, what if Steve Rogers was not able to actually return all of the Infinity Stones, specifically the Soul Stone? Now, the Russo brothers did comment that Red Skull and Steve Rogers did meet after that moment in Endgame when Steve goes back to return all of the stones. But they don't mention what actually happens in that meeting. The theory puts forward that the Soul Stone, unlike the rest of the stones, does not work within time the same way, because it requires a sacrifice of something that you love in order to have the power of all of the souls. It therefore cannot just be exchanged. It can't actually be given back. And so therefore, at that moment, Steve Rogers would become the protector of the Soul Stone. Even if he returned all the other stones, he wouldn't be able to return the Soul Stone, and instead would have to safeguard it from somebody getting it. Because at the end of Endgame, Tony Stark takes the Soul Stone from Thanos, and he didn't do any sacrifice, and yet he was still able to use it along with all the other stones to rewarp reality. So it kind of seems like you can just get the Soul Stone if you get to Vormir and make the sacrifice that's required. And then once that happens, the Soul Stone is sort of in the wild, as it were, and it can be used in different ways and taken by other people that don't necessarily make that sacrifice. And so essentially, from that moment where Steve went to return the stone up until we see him as an old man back in the main timeline talking to Sam Wilson, Steve would have been the protector of the Soul Stone. He would have also been able to commune with different people in the Soul Stone, including Natasha Romanoff, including Robert Downy Jr.'s Tony Stark, and basically anybody and everybody that has died, including Thanos himself. And this part here isn't actually in the theory that blew up, but it's something that I immediately thought of, and that's the scene with Peggy and Steve Rogers. Many of us just assumed that Steve Rogers went into a different timeline or went back in time and spent a bunch of time with his love, Peggy. But what if instead Steve Rogers actually just spent a whole bunch of time with Peggy inside the Soul Stone? Like, he went into the realm of the soul and just spent a infinite amount of time with her. And so that even if he spent countless years there with Peggy, he would eventually get old. He would eventually, even with the super soldier serum, age. But the theory ends with the idea of Secret Wars coming, and this, the Soul Stone, the fact that Cap was the keeper of it, being somewhat of a catalyst for how he's able to come back into the MCU and how he's able to bring people back like Robert Downy Jr.'s Iron Man and like Natasha Romanoff's Black Widow. So that's the basic theory. Let me talk about some of the things I like about the theory, some of the things I don't, and then I'll sort of add my personal spin on it, because there are things that I think could happen here. I just kind of see it going down a little bit differently. First of all, I love the idea of this having to do with the Soul Stone, because there's definitely a lot about the Soul Stone we don't know. The Vormir thing is incredibly interesting, but even the Ghost Spectre version of Red Skull says that the Soul Stone has a special place among the Infinity Stones. And in the comics, before there even were Infinity Gems, all of them were just referred to as the Soul Gems. So even in the comics, the idea of the Soul Stone being more powerful or more important than the other ones is there. And so I like the theory. I just can't quite leap to the point where Captain America would just come out with the Soul Stone and bring back the heroes to life when it came to Battle World, when it comes to Secret Wars. But that's where my own personal spin on this comes in, and it actually got me like even more hyped up about this theory, because again, I think the dude is onto something with the Soul Stone. But here's the thing. With the incursions being introduced in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the multiverse itself is going to start collapsing. Different universes have already been destroyed because of incursions. And if we're looking at the example of the incursions in Marvel Comics, which did lead up to a Secret Wars event, the entire multiverse is going to start having more and more incursions. And so what I think might happen is sort of twofold. Number one, I think Captain America, who leaves with the stone, will come back to the main Marvel timeline before the multiverse collapses. Whether he's going to be old man Cap or young Steve Rogers, I'm not really sure, although I would put money on him looking exactly the same as the Captain America that leaves at the end of Endgame. And then I think all of the different universes are going to be destroyed, and the multiverse, or what is left of it, will form Battle World. And then it will be on Battle World where Captain America, using the Soul Gem, will be able to bring back souls that originally died in the 616 sacred timeline, like Tony and Natasha, and he will be able to bring them back to life, because the universal rules that usually govern such a thing from not being able to happen are broken, because there is no more native universe left for that Soul Stone. And I actually think this will be a way for Thanos, Natasha, Tony Stark, and almost any other Marvel character that had died, like Quicksilver, to be able to be brought back to life on Battle World, because the stone is no longer governed by the powers of that universe. It'll be almost like a time capsule or a protective chamber that will actually save some of the souls that would have regularly died in the collapsing of the multiverse to be able to be brought back on Battle World. And so that's the theory and my personal spin on it. I open up the question to you. Do you think this is the actual way Marvel Studios will bring these characters back? Do you even think these characters will be coming back for Avengers Secret Wars? Let me know any and all of your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you're looking to watch more, why not watch this video I did all about Doctor Doom from the comics and what to expect from his MCU appearance, which should be happening very, very soon.